Well, Eric Ham is a best-selling author and political expert. He appears regularly on media platforms to provide in-depth analysis on events shaping US politics. Ham also served as a senior national security advisor in the United States, and he joins us from Washington. Eric, really great to have you on the program. Trump has proved so resilient in the past to things that would have damaged other politicians. But how difficult will this be personally and also in terms of optics? Because even though this is nominally about financial transactions, it does also have this lurid gossip column side to it because it involves a porn star.
Well, you're right, it does. But that is not going to be the central issue in this case. The central issue is going to be, did Donald Trump actually falsify business records? And did those falsification of records actually allow Donald Trump a decided advantage in the 2016 election? So there are two issues at play here: the falsifying of records and the interference of an election, namely the election in 2016. And we have to remember, Michael Cohen has already served prison time for this particular crime. Now, while these are seen as very low-level felonies, and that's certainly true, and it's unlikely that even if Donald Trump is convicted, that he will see a day in jail as a result of that. It's still a scarlet letter that Donald Trump will have to wear now through the election, that he is in fact a convicted felon. And while many people talk about Donald Trump's base of support, we know that base of support is hardened and is not going anywhere. But that base of support clearly is not enough to get Donald Trump elected. He still needs independent voters. He still needs moderate to right-leaning independents that will support him. And what we know based on poll after poll is that if Donald Trump is convicted of any of these criminal acts or charges that are being brought against him, many voters say they will not support him. So this will certainly have an impact on Donald Trump politically, even if not much legally.
Given what you've told us about what this conviction would rest on, if you were a betting man, Eric, how likely would you say a conviction is in this case?
I do believe that Donald Trump will be convicted of some, if not all, of these charges. We do know that there is an enormous amount of evidence against Donald Trump already in this case, to say nothing of the fact that not just the star witness, Michael Cohen, who says that he actually made this payment, but we also know that the porn star herself, Stormy Daniels, has also received this payment from Donald Trump. And also there are several checks that have Donald Trump's signature on them in relation to this, checks that were actually signed and came out of the actual White House when he was president of the United States.
Sounds like pretty damaging evidence, Eric. With this trial underway, 3 more coming up, how difficult will this make campaigning for the 77-year-old?
Well, because this is an actual criminal case, Donald Trump is required to be in the courtroom every day the trial is in session. Now, there's only going to be one day when they will not be in session, and that is on Wednesdays, which means that Donald Trump is now off the campaign trail. And again, where this becomes politically devastating for Donald Trump, we're already beginning to see that incumbent President Joe Biden is now closing the gap with Donald Trump in a lot of these polls right now. And so what we're seeing is Joe Biden now has the entire political space to himself, as Donald Trump is now in a Manhattan courtroom and will be there for the next 6 to 8 weeks, if not longer. And that gives Joe Biden an enormous amount of time to shape a narrative to his benefit.
As you say, an enormous amount of time. So what should he be doing then to capitalize on this? What should the Democrats be doing to make the most of, as you call it, a void?
Well, what we know is the Biden campaign is making enormous investment in North Carolina and Florida. And while many thought that Florida would be out of reach for the Democrats heading into November, we now know that there is going to be a key referendum on the ballot in November, particularly in 2 states, Arizona and Florida. And these are around reproductive rights. And so we know that since the overturning of Roe versus Wade in the United States, that's the the law that allowed a woman's right to an abortion in this country. Ever since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned that in the United States, Democrats have overperformed every special election, whether it's a Democratic state or a Republican state, on this issue. This issue on the ballot in November in Florida puts Florida in play for Democrats. And what we're going to see from President Joe Biden is attempting to try to close that gap in a key state like Florida, a state that Donald Trump is absolutely going to need in order to be successful in 2024. And now that he's off the campaign trail, you have a state like Florida where now that just gives Joe Biden free reign for the next 2 months.
Fascinating stuff. Absolutely one to watch. Eric Ham, so great to have you on the show today.
Thank you.